John, the outside wide receiver is not really that much involved in the game plan in week one. Do we see more of that going forward? Is that a trend that extends throughout the season, or was that just a one-off against Arizona because they found mismatches in the interior and with the running backs and the tight ends?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say that after just week one which direction because we don't really know because it's not like there's a history of this group together. And the strength, I think, of this offense will be in the guys that we saw getting the bulk of the work the other day. I would expect guys like Crowder, Richardson, and even Doxson to get more work during other games. And I think if the Cardinals played a lot of zone, and that may have played into it. I think some of the plays that just obviously worked well was what they were doing with, obviously in the run game it worked extraordinarily well. So I think that limited opportunities for there. But it's hard to go away from the guys that they were going to. So I think that's still going to be, I would expect those guys to be the ones heavily involved in the pass game all year. But I would think that the receivers will have games where, especially I think I can see Richardson having some big games just because of his ability to not just get down the field, but get across the field with speed. And then, again, we've seen what Crowder can do. So, and I know how much Alex Smith likes what Crowder offers. So if you see a team playing more man, I can see him getting in some situations. Crowder's really good in zone, too. That's not the issue, but it's hard to draw a grand conclusion after one game, but because they are a new group, it's hard what's going to happen. But I would expect them to have games where they're a lot more involved.
So, John, we have D. Hall on now every Monday. I think he's going to be on with Chad, too, in the afternoons. And we asked him about Doxson because obviously you got to practice and play against him and kind of see, what he's all about. The book seems to be out on him. He's not a guy that's going to, beat you with separation. That's, here we are in the third year. We've always thought he'd be a red zone guy, and he did get 6 touchdowns last year. But again, 3 targets yesterday. A lot of that could be game planning. Only got the 1 catch. D. Hall said it surprised me. He compared his hands to Larry Fitzgerald and A.J. Green. He said this guy's got incredible hands. I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
We've seen like the exact opposite of that. And then, But then by the same token, he said that, there was a part of him that kind of reminded him of Terrell Pryor because maybe it's one of those things where when he's in traffic and he's hearing footsteps, that could be a fatal flaw of this guy's game.
Well, if a former player who was your teammate is saying that, then I don't know what more I can add.
That's kind of troubling.
Yeah, well, yeah, and yes. And going into camp, I kind of thought, there were a lot of things that I felt like there were times last year he was pretty good. And I still think you're going to see some of that this year. To what degree, I don't know. I never looked at him as like a high-volume type guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think Paul Richardson may be more involved than I initially anticipated going into camp.
Right.
Because I'm impressed. Like, he can run. He's playing that Deshaun Jackson role, kind of. But he can run a lot more variety, a greater variety of routes. And we saw that the other day, some stuff over the middle that you're not going to see Deshaun run. So I think they can use him maybe more than I anticipated, which is going to cut into Doxson's chances. But, it's not like in training camp that you saw anything that you said, okay, just wait. You didn't come out of there thinking that. I know there were things last year that he had to learn about, because it was really his first full year of games where you have to learn about how to run certain routes, how to adjust when you get a different look on a route that you were going to run. And those are all legitimate lessons. But, again, it's not like this summer that you saw anything that said, okay, just wait. Him and, so I can't top what D. Hall says.
Right.
That's, I think that's kind of telling, isn't it?
He wasn't trying to be, mean or overly critical. He praised
No, but
him.
I think it's,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good analysis. I mean, and I think it's an honest analysis, and which is why I always like D. Hall.
Yeah.
John, you mentioned the RPO. I guess a variant of that was the speed option that Alex Smith ran and then pitched it to Thompson. Like, if you're a defender out in space, that's It's
You're a no-man's
it's like
land.
indefensible. Like
Yeah.
like if you pick Alex Smith, the ball goes to Thompson. If you commit to Thompson, Smith just cuts it upfield for probably, I don't know, 6-8 yard gain.
Yeah, and it was a great play because it was also against the zone, so you were able to outflank them as well. There was no one to take the pitch, and so it was a good play design against that defense. But who's anticipating a speed option? You know, so yeah, I mean, there were a lot of plays like that. The Adrian Peterson screen where he gains 18 yards. They're showing all sorts of action, but it's all based off of doing the earlier RPO and Peterson mostly running up in the middle. So the outside, it's a linebacker or a corner, whoever it was, has to hesitate and freeze, and that allows the line to get out there, and then Peterson's got the path. I mean, but that was play design because taking around, and then you got an RPO fake. What if Alex Smith keeps it? So people are just they're flat-footed, and that's what I'm talking about with the Griffin stuff, where it's like it was after the New Orleans game in 2012. I think I had as much fun going back and watching the games just to see how defenders were reacting to things because it was so new. And not that the RPOs are necessarily new, but it was new for this offense.